Do something. Because France did it, they won the World Cup. Spain did it, they won the World Cup. But Germany did it, they won the World Cup. But it was a long-term project. But here, the problem I have is we don't want to do long-term.
We are not going to do long-term. It's planning a long-term project. They talk about long-term.
You see, let me go back to Westerhoff, who everybody says is the best coach Nigeria has ever had in terms of results. I want to remind people, Westerhoff got into Nigeria in 1989. At the 1990 Nations Cup, Westerhoff lost the first game 5-1. If he was in this climb, he would be sacked instantly. 5-1, he lost the first game. He went on, got to the final, he lost the final. And then, that was 1990. 1992, in that 1989, the first qualifier for the World Cup, he lost qualifier to Cameroon, we didn't go to World Cup. 1992, we played Ghana in the semi-finals, we took the lead, we lost that game. It was a painful loss. I'm not sure if Westerhoff was a manager, 12 manager now, he will last 5 years. But why Westerhoff last 5 years? It was not because of the NFA at that time. It was because we had a de facto vice president, Augusta Homo, who had this visionary patience with Westerhoff. And Westerhoff had a direct line to Homo told me this himself. And it was like, okay, this man, you can't touch him. And the seeds were laid, and Nigeria became, the seeds for the foundation of Nigeria becoming a major force in football was laid in 1994. If you didn't allow, Westerhoff suffered deep in form, poor results along the way. On the road to success is going to happen. At some point, look at the German national team. They are world champions. They are struggling in European qualifiers. But here, we are not ready to do the long haul. At the first sign of poor results, at the first sign of, hey, we're not qualified for this, the coach is sacked. Another coach comes in, and you start all over again. And that's my fear. It has nothing to do with Keshi or Siasi or whoever is in that national team. We've got to appreciate the fact that on the road to success, just as in life, there are going to be ups and downs.
What you're saying now reminds me about the discussion we had in this very studio after the Olympics. And we said countries have gone back now who have been training kids from when they were 6 years old, training them for the Olympics of God knows, 20, God knows what. Why is Nigeria so different? It seems to be the same story you're telling now. No young boys are being groomed to take over from the current crop we have playing in the Eagles team. Well, why is there no such program in our country? We talk about it all the time.
Because we're trying to build from the top.
You can't.
And it can't work.
There has to be a foundation.
Let's look at the Golden Eaglets. I mean, the Ihanacho team that won the World Cup. Before that team, there was another team. So, but let's stay with the Ihanacho team. They won the Under-17 World Cup. How is it that they're not being groomed? We all thought that they'll be kept together and groomed into the Under-20, Under-23, and then go on to the national team. What's happening?
Wasn't that the plan of the Under-20? They're presently the Under-20 team.
Are they together?
Yes, they are together. But one other thing, you played at the Under-17 and you're the most valuable player of the tournament. Why can't you play in the senior team? We had a World Cup, that was coming almost after that period. Why did you put him? But Keshi denied the big boss who was in charge, said Ihanacho must wait for his time. But look at a typical example. This Asisat Oshola. She played in Under-20. She was the most valuable player in that tournament, the World Cup. Immediately, we won the African Women's Championship, the senior team. She was launched. And she emerged overall the most valuable player. Why can't Keshi do this for us? We suggested, there are suggestions, you can only do, best you could do was to, suggest. But the man said, no, Ihanacho must wait for his time. Owen assisted, he played for England. Look at some other players too. If you calculate top players in the world, these are from that range. And they are masters of the game. So why can't we do that?
And we'll take a break and when we'll come back and continue with the conversation. How do we return to not just the age grade football and the Under-17, but how do we go back to the academies? We used to have Pepsi Academy, and there are more academies now than there used to be. So why is it that we can't go back to this? We'll take a break and we'll be back shortly.
In 2012.
Okay, we're talking on the last stretch, and we're talking Nigerian football, developmental football. Why is it that we can't seem to go back to the grassroots and start from there with the younger ones? Deji, Doc was talking about injecting the under 17 into the national team, but before they became under 17, were they in an academy? And as I said before, we have more academies now than we had before.
There's an attempt, you have to admit, there's an attempt to try and do this age grade academies under 17, under 20 thing the right way. Because before the team that Dapo talked about, under 17 team that won the Nations of the World Cup last year, most of them came from academies. Most of them came from, but before that, what we used to do was have supposedly under 17 players who had played 3-4 years for clubs. And we were shooting ourselves in the foot. I'll give you an example. 2007, was it that? 2007, we won an under 17 World Cup in Korea, Japan, beating Spain in the final. Of that Spanish team, we can call about 4 or 5 who we are seeing playing and developing. Of the Nigerian team, not one. The reason they were not actually under 17 players. So we were cheating at age grade competitions, because age grade is supposed to be developmental. You don't have to win. If you get 1 or 2 players from every age grade squad that develops it, even if it's only Iyanacho we got from that team, and Iyanacho becomes a mega star worldwide, it would have been worth it. But what we all know, it goes back to what I said earlier, we want to win everything, and it's not possible. Even if you have the best talented footballers in the world, you can't win all the time. So because of that, because the administrators going back all the way to say that in my tenure as NFF, whoever, we want this, it doesn't add anything to our football if we cannot build on it. But the last team that won, there was a concerted effort, and I think whether they are the 17 or not, but at least you know that these guys are probably teenagers, most of them. And but the problem with under 17 also is the fact that they are still legally teenagers, and parents have a lot of say in their careers. You can't direct them. We talked about Iyanacho. Many clubs wanted to eventually end up at Man City. He's going and all that. Parents have a say. But so the national team is really involved. The national team is saying, hey, why don't you let this player go? If the father, like it happened with Iyanacho, the father says, no, I want him to go to Man City. I felt Man City was the wrong move. But the father wanted Man City, probably for other considerations. So it's very difficult for you. While the national team, you own the player, so to speak, the parents have control up to a legal age of probably 18. I think 18 in most countries. And at the same time, you cannot dictate for a player, go here. They can make their individual decisions. But at least we're trying to, and then academies are springing up. There's something they do in Lagos State. I think they have a competition and they have a database, and you can actually trace the players to their schools and all that. We've got to do that, because scientifically, players peak between the ages of 25 and 28, 29. That's when you can get the best out of a player. If we do not plan to be able to catch our best players at that age, then our national team is easy to. Keshi would go, another coach would come, the problems will remain. So it's easy to blame the coach. Coaches have different styles. Like I said, coaches have different styles, different players. There's no coach that will pick 23 players and you and I will agree with all the 23.
True.
So there will always be differences of opinion and differences of choices. For instance, another side of the argument would be